All right, we are so excited to welcome on to Theater and College Hoops, one of the sharpest dudes in the college basketball space when it comes to picks. Yeah, don't be bashful, man. When it comes to picks, betting, and just overall coverage, he's covered Wake Forest on his own platforms, as well as Deacons Daily. That's my fault. And he's an up and coming star in this little corner of our internet. We got Christian Odjakjian. Christian, what's going on, man?
Hell of an intro. Appreciate you. I'm very excited to talk hoops with you and get back on the mic. It's been a couple weeks since you come Purdue, and appreciate you and excited to chat.
Appreciate you jumping on. I actually need to retract. I already messed up your last name, even though you told me. I think I did Odjakjian. It's Odjakjian, correct?
Close enough. Yeah, it's just a tough one. I don't even flinch half the time. But I say Odjakjian.
Okay, well, my last name ends in IAN as well. Are you Armenian? Why don't we start there?
Are you Armenian?
No, I'm Indian. That's the thing, dude. I have IAN.
I thought you were Indian. I am Armenian, though, yeah.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, this is what you're getting, theater goers, in our first episode back in a couple of weeks. But, Christian, it's awesome to have you on. I mean, you do terrific work. First and foremost, speaking of the offseason, let's talk about it. How's it been? Have you been able to unplug a little bit? Obviously literally unplug the microphone, but you personally take a step away from hoops?
No, 1,000%. Like I love college hoop season, obviously, but like I'm a pretty unhealthy person for like a good 4, 5, 6 week stretch, my workflow also with Saturday was like, there were just so many great Saturday slates and I was just so involved. Like I feel like I've followed college basketball closer and closer, like at an increasingly, I just become a little bit more of a sicko every year. Like it just keeps going up and up. And like this year on like a Saturday, like I like did not go out and socialize on Fridays for like the first time in years. And I would just come home from work and I would just grind. And I would like barely sleep and I would grind, watching games, doing my write-ups, like getting prepped, knowing everything I needed to know and not really sleeping that much. But it was so fun. But point is to go touch grass and like hang out with my friends more again has definitely been good. So I enjoy my off season to reset.
Christian, I promise this is going to come full circle towards the end of this interview and this segment here on the episode. But I did see that TikTok that you were on. You replugged it because we all saw Dana Beers from Barstool like just run through where all the NBA players went to college. And I think you guys like you and I, right? I didn't go 100%. I missed a few. But the point that I'm making is I think at the end of that TikTok, when someone like that guy was asking you where some of these players went to college, you were just like, yeah, I don't have any friends.
Yeah, I was just messing around. Contrary to popular belief, I do have some friends, but it's a tougher to get a hold of me during college hoop season because I'm locked in. I just it's tough when when it's a loaded Saturday slate like that. That's why like days like Thursday, Friday, it's like I'll miss a Pac-12 game, I'll miss a Big Ten game, I'll miss my A-10. Like I really wanted to just funnel in and really know the teams I did want to know instead of like. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a Friday, like, oh, let me try and be the A-10 guy now. I'm not an A-10 guy. Like I knew what was up with Dayton, catch them a couple of times. It's like, that was kind of a key thing with just like my whole season. It's like, I want to talk about stuff that I feel that I'm an expert at. You know what I'm saying? So like, I don't want to be like talking about all these teams and trying to break down these teams that like, I don't straight up watch. Cause like what's cool about just like new media and like I love following burner accounts of teams. You know what I'm saying? Like I like interact with like Seton Hall burners, like as a like Providence, like a lot of Big East teams, but like Clemson too. Like those guys know their teams inside and out. You know what I mean? And like that's what I love because like those guys and they're watching every game, they're live tweeting every game, they're so passionate. And then like a lot of the national, more prominent voices in college basketball. And then of course, like when March Madness comes and more people start paying attention, like at this point in my college basketball journey, like I don't learn anything from someone who's not watching the games. You know what I'm saying? It's like I don't need you to say like, oh, like, KJ Simpson's really good guard on Colorado. It's like, yeah, like thank you. It's like I want to watch Colorado, see how I feel about them. You know what I'm saying? So like I guess I don't even know. You didn't even ask me a question. I'm just going off. But
go for it, man. I love this.
But yeah, just this season I was really about just like really focusing in on like what I know.
It makes sense. It makes sense for sure. And whenever I tweet theater, I've got my this is now just me trying to shake off the rust and the cobwebs right now. But whenever I tweet theater, all my followers or friends, even family, which is kind of disappointing. They'll be like, so like, what does a regular week look like for you? Like, are you watching all these games? I'm like, I'm not watching all of these games. No, like I'm more of a master of none perspective in the sense that, yeah, I'll be tweeting about Lemoyne in a close game. Like I can't imagine there's other folks talking about Lemoyne because I want those guys to get their shine, right? I want those 300 stadium seats getting their shine. And like I would say there's obviously the bigger names and intriguing matchups that you really sink your teeth into. But I think what's neat in this new media that you referenced, right? There's an avenue and there's different outlets that provide different things, right? But it's funny that you mentioned the days of the week, right? Like I'm over here on Friday night being like, thank God there's only like 6 games going on tonight. I actually think we need to balance the schedule out a little bit more.
God.
I don't know about you.
Yeah, totally. Like that's I kind of had like a rhythm to my week because right, it's like all right, Monday it's like kind of chill. I'll have my ACC game, I'll have my Big 12 game, and then Tuesday, Wednesday we've got Big East, we got Big 10, we got everything, we got SEC, ACC like Wake obviously, and I follow the ACC very closely, and then it's like Thursday there's a couple Big 10 games, Pac-12, Friday, whatever. But so like Thursday, Friday we're like I could kind of chill, catch up, get some sleep, work out. I'm being a little dramatic, but the point is, I think it would be nice as a viewer for it to not be so heavy on Saturday, Tuesday, Wednesday. But then again, like I've adjusted to that and said like Thursday and Friday, unless like I really want to watch a game, like I sometimes just lay off. I don't even turn it on. Like I don't even want to get involved. I'd rather just like because when a Tuesday, Wednesday happens and there's 10 great games, I can't watch all 10 at the same time. So I kind of want to slice and dice through that fast forward by 5-second button is my best friend because I can get through a game really fast,
That's true.
and even if I don't have time to get through like a 25-minute YouTube version of a game, like even just like seeing the key plays of a game and getting a feel for a game, that combined with the box score is like a efficient way for me to obtain the information of a game that I didn't have the time to sit down and watch. But the most fun thing is for me, like to watch a whole game, like to sweat out like a bet or to watch a game that's just a really good game, So when I'm quad boxing or I'm going crazy, like, there's a time and a place for it, but there's just, it's a beautiful sport because there's so much going on, but like, it's hard to follow it all,
It's real difficult. I mean, there's a lot of teams that you may have to get to know come March and might become relevant. That's what like a Lemoyne, I'm telling like randomly, they could be relevant. You have no clue, right? You have no clue. And I wanted to dismiss and not care about NC State. They went to the Final Four. And that's why I always like in December and November when people are making these sweeping generalizations and they're like, this team's not going to do anything. Don't worry about it. I'm like, you genuinely don't know that. There's one sport where you absolutely don't know that's going to be true. And it is college basketball. But Christian, I want to get into your background because I think that's super important for all of our guests to get a better understanding of who they're listening to right now. And I think you have a pretty interesting one, but I want to put the ball in your court. Take me through your journey, how you got to this point, going to Wake Forest, all of that. Start wherever you need to.
Cool. So born, raised outside of Providence, Rhode Island, in Barrington. I was lucky enough that my dad worked for the Big East when I was a kid. So I went to Friars games, UConn games all the time. From when I was probably 7 to 13, I went to the Big East tournament. Caught a couple quarterfinal games. So, some of the night games, like my mom would get a babysitter. I would get to me and my sister would get to see at least 5 or 6 games at MSG a year, which was just unreal. Like prime Big East, like so cool. And then when all the realignment happened, my dad had the same job, but it just became the American because the name was sold and then to the Catholic school. So it wasn't as fun, but it was still Houston, Cincinnati, Wichita, like UConn was still there. Louisville was there for a second. So I still got to have really cool opportunities to go see games and go to those tournaments. And I was always just as a kid like just very into college hoops. Like I would get like a magazine and I would like play pretend like Nerf hoop, like and like make brackets and like just all random stuff like that. But then I just remember I would love watching March Madness and picking random upsets and stuff. But as I get older and like more of my friends and like middle school and stuff, people started to make brackets. Like I was like, I want to know about these teams before the tournament, right? I was like, I want to know who's good and stuff. And like, I remember sometime in high school is when I like really kind of leveled it up. Like I would be like not paying attention in class because I'm like just reading, watching college basketball, like stuff like that, watching more. And I remember this one game specifically. Remember when Florida State was a 9 and beat Xavier? That was a 1 seed.
Might have been like the
2017.
Was like Davidas Dulkis. Was he on that Florida State team? That may have been
this is later Florida State. That was the first Florida State run. This was like Terrence Mann was still there.
Yeah.
It was like JP Mackey or Xavier the year after they were the 2 and lost to Bronson Kane, or maybe that was the year after. But point is, I just remember watching Florida State and seeing how athletic and deep they were and how good this team was. And I'm like, I didn't give a crap about Florida State during the regular season. Like I just didn't. I'd never turned on a Florida State game at this when I was however. And I was just watching them and I'm like, I wish I knew they were good. Or at least I knew what this team was like about. I knew their style. I knew their flavor. And from that point on, I was like, all right, I need to make sure I catch a glimpse and know what's going on with every team before I make my bracket. Because I would turn on a March Madness game or even like Middle Tennessee, right? When they beat Michigan State, I was like, this team's sick. Like, how come I wish I knew they were good? Like, they got some hoopers on this team. Like, so that's when I started to like kind of level up my game a bit, right? And then still like career-wise, still kind of figuring out. Like, I knew I kind of wanted to do sports stuff, but I go to Wake, and I was thinking about being a team manager because I had gotten a cool opportunity to coach 6 to 8-year-old kids at Providence College at Ed Cooley basketball camp, which was cool. I got to know some of the players and got to know all the team managers, and I was like, oh, like I would love to be a team manager. Like they had such great culture, and it was a lot of fun. You get to be right around the team, and I was like, I might want to be a manager at Wake. But Danny Manning was such a bad coach, and the team was so bad that I was like, I can't subject myself to this. I'm not going to give up my social life at college and make academics way harder to like be a team manager for a bad team that I'm not excited to be a part of. So I was like, how else can I get involved? I was like, oh, what if I try to like write or do some media thing? And I remember I went to the activity fair. It was like October, September, and I went to the school newspaper. I never did any school writing in high school or anything. I mean, obviously, like, regular English classes and stuff, but like I didn't do like journalism. And I took an intro to journalism class, and then I went up to the editor of the paper. I was like, hey, like, can I, like, is anyone writing for the, like, I thought maybe I'd have to write for like volleyball or something. And then like senior year, maybe I could be the basketball writer. And I go up to the editor. I'm like, is anyone writing for the men's basketball team? He's like, no, you want to do it? Like, and I was like, sure. So it's like, there's a lot of ACC school, it's the smallest Power 5 week. So it's like a lot of ACC schools. It's probably very competitive to get that. I literally just pulled up, no idea what I was doing. Team was bad. No one cared, whatever. So I got that. So I got a media pass like game 1 freshman year, and I'm covering the team. But freshman, sophomore year, because we were so bad, like I was only so bought in. Like I didn't even make a Twitter yet. Like I would just write a weekly story for the school paper that I don't even know if anyone read because the team was bad, and it would come out days after the game because they only printed once a week. But then junior year, I got DM'd. I got contacted some way, I forget how, by a guy who did like ACC Sirius XM radio. And they're like, hey, we have this segment of, we interviewed 2 student reporters of teams. And we were playing Florida State. This was year 1 for Steve Forbes. And he was like, would you like to come on? I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then I remember thinking in my head that day, I was like, oh, like they'll probably ask like at the end, like, do I have like a social media? And I remember I made my Twitter that day. It's like midway through my junior year at Wake. So I'd been covering the team for like 2.5 years, but like barely, like very lightweight. Like some of my friends didn't even know I did it. Because no one went to the games. Like, no one cared. Like, we were horrible. And, so I made it. And then I tweeted the rest of the season. I had, like, 50 followers going to my senior year. But senior year, I'm like, all right, would love to make the tournament. Like, that was always, like, I would love to make the tournament before I graduate, right? And then quickly into that season of year 2 over Forbes, I'm like, okay, this Alondes Williams guy is amazing. This Jake LaRavia dude can hoop. Like, Music has gotten better. Like, we had a team, finally. And I got very into it. So at this point, I started to, like, tweet more and just lean in more. And I remember I had like 100 followers. I also only had 100 followers, like December my senior year. And then I decided like I'm going to drive to UVA for this road game. Why not? Like Saturday, like
how far of a drive is that from Winston-Salem to Charlotte?
5 hours, maybe 5 hours, 6 hours. And I was like, let's do it. And I was the only person there covering the Wake game, and we won. We got a nice road win. And I remember I went up to like 250. I'm like, oh, I'm big balling right now. Like, let's go. And then traveled to a couple other spots. Next thing I know, come the ACC tournament, I've got like 1,000 followers. And it was just awesome. Obviously, it was devastating that we lost to Boston College and make the tournament. But it was still just really cool, like seeing like people actually caring what I had to say. And like, because Wake is like a tight knit community, like I was like a legit voice. Like there's a few beat reporters, but I felt like I was right there, like, which was just awesome. Like as someone who's loved basketball his whole life and like thought he's had good takes and stuff and like analyzes the game well, like that was really cool to me. But then, I graduate Wake and I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do with my Twitter, my writing. Like, I don't know, maybe I'll do some blogging thing, whatever. But then Fan Nation, operated by Sports Illustrated, the Arena Group, it's a whole nother story. But they reached out to me asking if I would start a Wake site, like after I graduated. And I was like, sure. So then last year, like I did like previews for every single Wake game. And I teamed up with some kids, Essex and Ben, who still do Wake stuff. And we worked together as a team covering, but I was like remotely, like I went to see us play Notre Dame, Wisconsin, and then Rutgers. But yeah, did that a bit. Didn't really grow my following a bit because I was caught in this in between where I was like still Wake, but like I kind of wanted to just be like general college basketball, but my whole audience was Wake people. And then this year, and then that site, they took away the site from me. They just canceled down their like least performing sites, and obviously Wake of their like has not as many fans. So they took that away. So I was like, this season, like what's my plan? Like, what am I gonna do? I'm sitting here like 1.4K followers, and I have a Wake audience, but I want to do college basketball. I don't want to just be like a loud Wake fan because I like Wake and I care, but like I care about the sport way more than just Wake, right? And I was like, what if? And I like started casually betting like when I was like a junior in college, and was just bad. Like even though I know basketball, I was just bad at it because I was disorganized and I didn't understand the market, and I just wasn't organized. I didn't track stuff. So I started my senior year of college. I started tracking my bets, just privately, just so I wouldn't be a degenerate. And then I did that last year as well. And last year I did really good. So I was like, what if I just start putting them out? And when you reached out to me, I went back and looked at my sheet because I wanted to see like how the year kind of evolved. And like,
let me pull that up, my man.
No, he's got the sheet.
Yeah, because it was something that I was going to ask about because this is unbelievable. Go ahead though. Yeah, for our YouTube viewers, check this out.
Oh yeah. So
detail.
I remember I tweeted on November 6th. I said, hey, like I'm going to be tweeting out because I would like tweet out some picks like here and there last year. Like I think I gave like picks during March Madness. I was like, I'm going to be giving out my picks this year. Last year I was up however many units. Like here's a public sheet. I'm just like, my idea was like, I'm just going to throw it out there and see what happens. And I remember I was like Purdue. It was like Purdue minus 19.5 against Stanford. I was just like, I think Purdue's going to rinse Stanford. Like one sentence. They won by 44. Smash was my term for like, it was so right. It wasn't even up in the air. And wait, scroll back over. So I was just kind of like, still like kind of getting a feel for it. Like didn't really have a plan to be honest. But then I remember, I think it was like either this Devo Davis points prop or maybe the Dayton Houston game. I just started to like change it from posting my pick to like writing a little bit of a supplemental thing. And then it got a little bit longer. And then I think it was this FAU or maybe it was Utah St. Mary's. You know what? I think it was Utah St. Mary's. Because I remember I was at the airport. I was traveling home for Thanksgiving. And I was like, ooh, there was one good game on. It's Utah St. Mary's. I'm going to watch that game. Who do I bet? And I had watched Utah play. I hadn't watched St. Mary's play. But I knew St. Mary's had kind of started slow. But St. Mary's hosting them there 4.5 point. And I was like, ooh, like this is a nice bounce back for St. Mary's. I'm probably going to bet St. Mary's. And I was like, hold up. Let me watch them first. Let me see what I see. Because I was impressed watching Utah, and I think it was the Charleston Classic because that was what Wake was in. I was like, this Utah team could score. Like they struggled with Houston and St. John's, athleticism. Like this pre-Davon Smith, and when they had Worcester running the show. But point is, I just spent like an hour at the airport, like just like watching those teams, breaking it down. And I was like, wait, Utah is way better. And I remember I wrote like a whole thing about why Utah was going to win, and it got a little buzz. And everything I wrote before that would get like 2 to 3 likes each. But that got some buzz. And then I remember that the Memphis, where was it? Memphis, scroll down a little bit, maybe Memphis, Virginia. I wrote like a big thing about Memphis was going to be Virginia. Maybe it was a little bit.
There's Memphis Ole Miss.
It was early on in the season. I guess it was, maybe late November. I wrote a thing about Memphis, and then Memphis like crushed Virginia. But the point is, I just kind of like fell into writing these large write-ups, and it was like just kind of working. So I was picking well, and it was helping me grow my following. And then when people would come in and tell me I was stupid for being wrong, like that would also get me engagement. But yeah, it was like I was just kind of figuring out as I went, and like I was betting and staying organized on my own, like in the tracker being transparent, like made me like be responsible and like not be like throwing out a bunch of stupid live bets and stuff. But yeah, I did this for myself as much as anything, and then I realized like no one's really giving out this type of free, like just straight up analysis. Like a lot of people just give out picks, or I don't know. I just kind of just started doing it, and then fast forward, like people were like it's crazy how I went from a point to I would write a long ass thing and would get no likes, no engagement, to like fast forward 3 months, I'm tweeting out like I have my play, and there's like people instantly liking saying give us the play. I'm like, that's so cool that I just like somehow like finessed like bullshit my way into doing this. But no, it was amazing. Like the I got so much support this year, and it was so much fun. And it's crazy because I was just figuring out how I went. And like after 5 years of being like a weight guy, this year I didn't really have a plan, and I was just like, let's just go. And then I met Nick at Turnstone Capper. We had exchanged a couple of DMs, and we did some live shows. Then I got involved with Sleepers, and like now I've had a time to like reflect on it, and like I'm just like so thankful. Like it's been so fun. I've been on an absolute riff. I'm sorry, but there's the story. That's how I'm in this position. But
no, it's very neat.
Kind of bullshit my way into it. It just kind of happened. Like
it's super interesting, Christian. Honestly, like I'm glad you went into the details there, unpacking that. Can I first start by asking what your dad did? Like
he did like scheduling. He was like associate commissioner, so we did scheduling stuff, figuring out with like the networks which game was going to have who, like tip times, men's, women's, like sharing with an NBA team, like all that kind of stuff.
Been to Providence plenty of times, and so it's I didn't know you were from the Northeast. Went down south right for school. And now you're in the Midwest. The game's taken you a lot of different places. So it's obviously in your career, it's been a winding road, but literally like geographically, it's been winding too.
Yeah, no, for sure. It's been cool. I'm only 24, so to live in 3 different regions is kind of cool.
So let's dive in a little bit to the bets that you were talking about, right? And how you started handicapping these games. Let me start with this. Do you have any advice for betting college basketball specifically?
To a casual, to someone trying to be serious. Why
don't we address both?
Okay, sure. So for a casual, if you're like very casual, like don't chase your losses, because my problem in college was I still wasn't betting much money. I still don't bet much money, to be honest. Like, but the issue, what happens is you get 3 games wrong. Let's say you put $10 on each of them, and then you're like, I want to get it all back. You throw 40 on the next one, and you didn't feel that much more confident about that one than the one you bet $10 on, right? And then you lose that one, and all of a sudden you're down way bigger. And that's where you start to get yourself in a hole and start to do it where it's not a fun thing anymore. Like you're just straight rolling the dice and straight, like you're not even enjoying watching the games. You start to bet on games you're not watching. Like that's when it starts to become a destructive habit. That's what the books want you to do. Don't do it. Like if you want to be casual and bet like with your friends, like, or, you're watching a game, having like, make sure it's a fun thing. If you're not trying to be serious and like be a hardo like me and track stuff, like just make sure it's fun. And it's not, in my opinion, it's not fun to on a Friday night be betting on some mid-major game because you're chasing a loss. You're not even watching the basketball game. You're just trying to get your money back. You're just straight gambling. Like those are the types of, I just remember like I would be down out. Like now I'm watching, like and sometimes it's fun to like, I'm watching Cleveland State IUPUI and we're in overtime, like whatever. But I just think as I was getting into it, it was just irregularity of bet sizing, just like no plan, just kind of just go. And like I would get a lot of things. Like I would have a great call that I was like super like prepared on. I really knew the teams. Like I'm like, oh, Indiana's going to beat Purdue, whatever, like big upset. And I'd be right. But I would blow it being stupid, So just about like making sure if you're doing it for fun that you're being funny, you're like actually having fun and not just being too disorganized. And if you're serious, like, to be honest, like this felt like my first year, like where I was like I feel like I learned a lot this year. Like I know I did well this year, but like when I look back at some of my earlier logic and sizing and stuff like that, like on that sheet, like I'm like I was being stupid. Like I feel like I learned a lot this year. And part of that was through Nick. He's been in the game for longer than me. He has a better understanding of like the markets and line movement and like opening lines, like stuff like that. But then from like the basketball part of it, like a lot of it's feel, right? Like it's like sometimes you'll have like a simple logic on a game. It's like, oh, like for example, that St. Mary's Utah game, I was like, it's like, oh, St. Mary's lost the last 2 games. They're well coached. They're at home. Take St. Mary's. Sometimes, and then you'll be right. And you're like, oh, that was so easy, right? And then there's other times where, you'll break it down so much, you'll be so confident, and then you'll be completely wrong. But for me, like, I don't know. There's nothing better than when I like have a real like hypothesis of why I think X is going to happen, and then it happens. Like one of my favorites was I bet Stephon Castle over half a 3 when they played Bama
Final Four when they were just daring him to shoot.
Exactly, and they dared him to shoot on the first 2 possessions, and he hit one. And I said they're going to dare him to shoot it. Look at what they did with Elliot Cadeau. Castle has the green light for like I just had like a whole reason why, and that's exactly what happened. Like that's not going to happen every time. Like as good as I am at it, like that only can happen so often. Like it's still really hard. But when I do like absolutely nail something like that, like that's the best. That's what I do it for.
Yeah, no, it makes a lot of sense. It's just fascinating to me because for me personally, my co-host is pretty much our betting correspondent, right? I don't bet. Obviously, I'm familiar with terminology and the lines, and when people ask me like, "Hey, what do you think about this game?" I'll give them my thoughts, but I know that doesn't necessarily translate to a good bet, right? I can do my best to handicap what I think is going to happen, but I don't know if that'll play out from a betting perspective. But it's so interesting looking at college basketball because that is the one sport that I would hazard to say you, and most certainly I can say with confidence, watch and analyze and can break down at a granular level. There's other sports, maybe to an extent the NBA, but NFL, baseball, which I love, I'm just watching at a surface level and having fun watching it. Obviously, I have my favorite teams and whatnot, but I'm not going to be able to give you a in-depth analysis. And so when I hear about different bets that go on in those sports, right, and how people approach betting in those games versus college basketball, which again, at a high level, these are 18-year-old, 19-year-old kids, which is similar to college football. But for the most part, we get a similar playoff every single year in college football. At the very least, you get very similar top 8, top 10 teams. Again, I have to reiterate, we got NC State in the Final Four this year. Last year, we had FAU, who had a great season, but they're in the Final Four. Miami went to the Final Four, right? You have these crazy teams that are so nondescript in December and November and January. And if they can string together 3 to 4 good games, in NC State's case, I believe it was 9. If they can string together a good March, an undefeated March, they're going to be relevant. And you're sitting to yourself like, well, why couldn't I have handicapped that? Why couldn't I have foreseen or forecast this back in December? And I'm going to be the first to tell you, you couldn't. No one with a sane, rational mind was going to tell you that Kevin Keats was going to be in Glendale. You can't do it.
Oh yeah, I mean, I would love to see if some psycho NC State fan like place that bet like at the beginning of the AC tournament or something. That would just be unreal. But yeah, I mean, what you're getting at is like one of my big takeaways this year, right? Like, even as knowledgeable as I can feel about a game, like it's still completely up to chance. In Vegas and the lines and Ken Palm and all that, like it's really tough to get an edge, right? Like the lines are really good. Like you ever see a line, it's like 10.5, and then it's like they win by 11. You're like, how did they know? It's like it's crazy how good the lines can be set. So like that's why I emotional, like just being zen is so key. It's like if I'm hot, don't act like I'm better than the process. Like don't think, oh, I'm hot right now. Boom, this team, that team. I'm just gonna keep getting everything right. And when I'm doing bad, it's saying we're good. This will even out. I had a week where I went like 2-11. Like I lost 20. I went up I think 45 was my final unit total. I lost 20 in 1 week. One of them was I had Utah plus 6.5 against Arizona, and they lost in triple overtime by 7. It's like, you can't make this stuff up. It's like, when stuff happens like that doesn't go your way, the thing I would always say to myself is water finds its level. When I get that buzzer beater that I win on, I'm going to get a buzzer beater that I lose on. That's cool. You know, in the long run, like, the stuff that's lucky will balance out. I'm just trying to find that little edge I can get so that I'm right more than I'm wrong, right? Because my units are smaller now. I'm not like making any big money, but it's like in the future, if I were raising that bar, the key is just be 52%, 53% correct is fantastic. And I was, I think, 59% on my like higher confidence plays this year, which like is like really good. And like, there's so much luck involved. There's so much up to chance. It's, you know, one shot here, one bad foul call there. It's like not getting too far sucked into that and saying like, in the long run, if I do the work and if I'm good at this, like over the course of the season, like I'll be good. You know what I'm saying? But when there's those ruts, you're like, I can't get anything right. Like, why? I remember, I don't know. That's my answer for the question.
Yeah, no. So I quick piggyback off of this, Christian. Was there ever this season? Feel free to limit it this season, or if there's a glaring example that comes to your mind, let me know. But was there ever a bet that you placed where you say to yourself, I've crunched the numbers, I've crunched the film, and everything is telling me to take team A or player A, but you just go strictly gut, where you say to yourself, I have to ignore this because of the vibes right now? I think the closest I came to that was the first round matchup of the NCAA tournament with Western Kentucky versus Marquette. And in the first half, your boy was two-stepping. I was happy. I was like, you know what? There's nothing that yields itself or lends itself to saying Western Kentucky's going to win. So what I did was, hey, this could be potentially 4 straight years of a 15/2. I really love Steve Lutz. Part of that I did get right. I was like, he's going to win this game and then jump ship to a major program. Half of that came to fruition. But nothing really showed me that Western Kentucky was going to win that game. And again, of course, I was proven wrong. But my question to you, Christian, is you look at everything from a holistic standpoint, but you say to yourself, nah, I'm going vibes here.
I definitely have some plays where vibes matter, but in that situation, what happens more of the time is that it seems like I go against the vibes and then I'll be mad about it. Like, let me give an example of that was Arizona FAU. I was like, okay, FAU is going to struggle on the glass. Vlad Golden is going to get into foul trouble, and Arizona should be able to like be physical. Like, I had a whole reason why I thought Arizona was just going to be too much to overcome, right? And then the game starts, and I'm like, see, they're just too much for FAU. I was like, because I like FAU, of course. Like, it was hard not to be a fan of them, right? And I'm like, oh, I like FAU. Wish they could have played better, but Arizona's too good. And then the game starts to come along. Arizona starts to settle and do that thing that they love to do and missing all the threes and beating Caleb Love. And then John L. Davis is cooking, and I'm like, should have listened to the vibe, should have bet the team that I wanted to win. And like, I'm watching John L. Davis cook, and I'm like, why am I not in FAU right now? Like, so that's why it's hard to, for me, I think the key is like just staying away if it's like a big conflict between vibes and what I think is going to happen, if that makes sense. So like another team, Miami, I was like all over Miami being good the last 2 years. Like when people were saying it's not real, whatever, I was like all about it. I'm like, yes, they are. Yes, they are. Then this year I had a really tough time accepting that they weren't what I wanted them to be. Yep. And I would like kind of vibes bet them. I'm like, yeah, I know they're probably going to struggle with this, but I like Miami. You know what I mean? And that's when I would get into trouble. So there is a dance of that, right? And like sometimes you have to trust those vibes. But when the vibes are in line with what my science brain thinks is gonna happen, like that's when I have to load it up. That's when it gets to the point. Like my most proud play of the season has to be Iowa State against Houston in the Big 12 championship, because
I remember that.
That was the one that I went into. Like, I really think a key is like going in with an open mind to a matchup. It's really hard to do because your bias is built throughout the season, right? Example, I don't like Pop Isaacs. I don't like his name. I just don't like his energy. He like, I thought was like charged with sexual assault and then like got away with it. Like people were saying like he wasn't going to be allowed to play. Like that kind of got swept under the carpet. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is. Like, I just wasn't like, and then his game, I'm like, yeah, he can get hot, but as a guard, like whenever he would go off and like hit a bunch of threes, I'm like, it just feels fluky to me. Like that was the thing. I had a tough time of like coming around on Texas Tech because like I was just kind of like, I don't believe in Texas Tech. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes you have it, and at the end of the day, that vibe was right. They didn't win a game in the tournament. They lost by double digits to a seed. So like sometimes I want to listen. If it's like I don't want to get behind Texas Tech, it's like I don't need to get behind Texas Tech. But what that means is like I also got to like be able to remove the biases and say, all right, we'll stop going against Texas Tech because they're good. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and then like a team like Florida. I remember I think you liked Florida this year too. But like I thought Florida was really good, and I kept taking them, and you know. It was working. And then like I remember I was like a little nervous of them playing Auburn. I know Micah got hurt and you know that changes that game a bit, but I was like, I don't know. So yeah, for me, I think really the key is like when you can go into a game with an open mind and like try to suppress the vibes and like really try to think it down, but like you can't ignore the vibes, right? And with that Iowa State Houston game, I went in like I don't know who's going to win this game. And the more I looked into it, I was like getting more and more confident Iowa State was going to win. And like that's good. And it's hard to have the discipline to only bet games when you feel that good. Because sometimes you're like, ooh, I could take this team or I could take this team. They both seem great. And the right thing to do in that situation is to not bet it at all. But because I love basketball and I'm like, oh, I'm going to watch the game, I might as well. I might as well get on the actions.
No, it was a great pick. And I had actually taken the Cyclones prior to tournament play starting. I took them to win the Big 12 tournament, which, by the way, if you take a step back, it's kind of insane how Houston – this year didn't end up with a Big 12 tournament title nor a Final Four berth. Obviously, the Shed injury has a lot to do with that, but it's just interesting to really look back on it and say, okay, you know, they really only just won. I shouldn't say only, but you figured they'd get maybe two of those three. But yeah, and when you look at the first meeting, I think it was in Houston. Obviously, you contribute a lot of Iowa State's offensive struggles to how great Houston's defense was, but Iowa State was right there. And if you really saw that game, that head-to-head matchup, applied it to the Big 12 title game, you know, you can see that the Clones were a very formidable team. I am curious to know, though, right, if we get out of the weeds a little bit and take it from a bird's eye view, it's always funny to me when, obviously, I read your tweets and read some of your picks, and then I'll click on the tweet and I'll see for the ones that you get wrong, I'll see some hardos, some dudes chirping, saying like, bro, delete this. Bro, take this down. I'm curious to know just generally your thoughts on that when you first open up Twitter, go to the little bell on the notifications, and you see these things. Like, how do you compartmentalize that? How do you deal with it?
Yeah, it's a great question. So the first one where I got absolutely rinsed was I took Wake to cover like 8.5 at North Carolina. Wake was starting to play really well, and I was confident. And I wrote this whole long thing about why Wake was going to cover. They were up one, they were down 1.5, and then UNC completely smoked them in the second half. And all it takes is one Carolina fan to get his hands on that. Look at this dude who wrote this absolute novel to just get absolutely rocked. What a stupid Wake homer. You know, so I know I'm a little bit for Wake.
Are you emulating Riley Davis there? Our good friend Riley Davis?
Riley Davis is one of the kind Carolina fans that I can interact with.
Right.
But that's the thing. Most of the people seeing that have no idea that I do this shit for every game. So like, and they're passionate Carolina fans, and they're gonna get on me for it. And like that one was wild because that one, it went from like I didn't really deal with anything to like I had hundreds of people like absolutely rinsing me. And like it's really about like this isn't real. Those people wouldn't say anything to my face. They're just passionate fans and it makes them feel better about themselves to put someone down for being wrong about a 50-50 prediction. You know what I mean? And like being able to just be like, I don't care. And low key, they're helping me get more engagement, like in getting me in front of more eyeballs. All it takes is one person to click on me and say, oh, this dude tracks his picks. Like maybe I'll check him out. You know what I'm saying? So like, it's a win. It's a win for my account to get hated on. I'm not doing it on purpose. Obviously I would rather be right, but like learning to like separate, like it's not worth it to try and argue with anyone because there's nothing positive to come out of it. The best thing to do is always to calmly deflect. What is it? A line? I'm not trying to be a cocky bastard. Call myself a lion. I'm just saying a lion doesn't care about the opinion of sheep. That's the mantra I try to adopt. Like, why do I need to care about this UNC burner account 10 followers telling me I don't know basketball? because I know basketball. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So it's
No,
like
absolutely.
putting my pride and my ego aside and just like being calm and I was good at it for most of the season. But then there were a couple times, I think it was right around March Madness. I had a bad start to March Madness. And this is when I had a couple drinks to me. It was Friday night. I'm watching. I'm wrong about everything. This week becomes like, oh, you're evil. And I'm just like, okay, buddy. Like, you're still following me. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't like, it can be funny. And like, every once in a while, I'll have a funny response to someone. Like, you're so right. Like, I don't know. But it definitely like took a little bit of an adjusting. But I always try to just bring it back to like, dude, it's not worth it. Like, like it's not worth it. And I remember I posted like a video of like Caleb Love saying like, look at this bad effort, blah, blah, blah. And then people were like, you're stupid if you don't think Caleb Love is helping Arizona. Like, and I'm like, and then when there's actually like a contention to be made, that's when I'll interact, right? I'll be like, and the key on Twitter is to tell people they're right before you make your point. I totally agree. Caleb Love's been great this year, but I do think his shot selection and his lack of effort sometimes at the defensive end, like, is why I still struggle to get behind Arizona. So it's like that, and then sometimes people who will be like come in and be so mean, they'll be like, yeah, that's true. That's a good point. And then they'll follow me. And I'm like, it's like there's no point to ever just like stoop down. It's like either ignore it or like give a friendly thing. And if someone can't do a friendly thing, that's whatever. And I remember someone like did something like really bad. I think it was like Shed got hurt and someone did some like gross like x-ray thing of like an ankle and was like, you idiot. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to start using my blocking powers. If it comes to a point where someone's like in my replies, like kind of low-key like obsessed with me, it's like, why do you care so much about a dude with a couple thousand followers making college basketball picks? It's like grow up. I'm giving this shit out for free. You don't have to tell me if you don't want to. If you're throwing down a stupid bet, that was a crazy thing. I'll put $20 on a game and someone like, oh, I got 2,000. I'm like, bro, don't put this on me. like my mom said something like, you got to put like a gamble responsibly type thing out there. And you'd like to think that people should be able to know that themselves. But like, honestly, if I grow, like it is something that I need to take into account. Like I do kind of take responsibility. If I say this is my top conference play of the month, there's going to be some people out there who are like, oh my God, I'm throwing the mortgage on it. And it's like, whoa, like, I don't know. So it's definitely something to navigate, but I was proud for the most part that I didn't stoop to the level of a lot of the crazy people.
Mature beyond your 24 years, man. I'll give you credit for that. And honestly, I was a Caleb Love backer. I'll never get to a point. First of all, I'm too old for that, right? Like I'm not going to get into an argument on Twitter, although I came close last year because I'm an Arizona fan. So I came close last couple of years when Arizona was in battles with Tennessee during the regular season. I came close, but at the end of the day, you say to yourself, this ain't worth it for some guy in Knoxville, vice versa. This ain't
Right.
worth it for some guy in Tucson, right? But I would say, like, yeah, Caleb Love has been awesome, and he was the Pac-12 Player of the Year, which I think the last Pac-12 Player of the Year Arizona had was like Nick Johnson. And so you say to yourself, when you have Caleb Love in that category, you have to give him his flowers and you have to respect him. On the flip, there are some puzzling plays that he does, and I've said that, like, I'm a realist, and it doesn't help with engagement. It doesn't help with conflict, Christian, but I'll say I love him. And yes, I have to, I know, and I've acknowledged that I have to live with a third possession where he's falling towards the baseline, taking a one-footed runner against Clemson. Like, I know I have to live with that. And so when people are like clowning me, I'm like, no, I get that. And I was waiting, hopefully, for him to go insane afterwards because he's done that. Majority of the year, everyone said you're going to get the roller coaster Caleb Love. I tried telling people, like, we got that in postseason play. During the regular season, he was nasty. Like, it was just high. It wasn't very much low for Caleb Love. But that's a tangent. Very mature how you handle some of the trolls. Hey, I want to get you out of here on a couple quick hitters though, Christian. You've done a wonderful job of evolving and graduating from Wake to the broader landscape, but I want to distill that again. Okay, let's talk a little Wake, because I also have a Wake Forest fan who, it's just been rough for you guys. You're so close on the precipice of making the NCAA tournament. You referenced the ACC tournament loss to BC. By the way, Earl Grant, I feel like, does his best work in the ACC tournament. Doesn't do anything prior. They don't necessarily go to the NCAA tournament, but he does just enough where you're like, is BC turning the corner? Who knows? But Wake Forest, man, from a Wake fan's perspective, what needs to happen for them to actually, like, and not even the John Collins, Danny Manning playing game in Dayton, solidly have a game guaranteed?
So the Londa's team was a tournament team, and that team was definitely better than the team this year, in my opinion. You had two NBA players. You had two 22, 23-year-old bigs in Kadeem C and Dallas Walton. You had another senior big in Isaiah Musis who could stretch the floor at 6'9". You were bringing Damari Monsanto off the bench. You were bringing a freshman Cam Hildreth off the bench. Like, you were bringing Davian Williamson in. Like, that was a really good team, and that was the start of the downturn of the ACC. And that's a whole other conversation that people want to say, but the ACC balls out in March Madness. It's like, all right, but if maybe the bottom teams in the league didn't lose to bad teams in non-conference, it wouldn't be up. The evil computers don't hate the ACC. They're just funneling data in. Whatever. Point is, Wake came in 5th in the ACC, lost a couple close games, like right there at Cameron Indoor. Mark Williams tips it in at the buzzer. Blew it to Miami at home. I'm trying to think of it. Smoked Carolina, who was obviously good like that year. Just they were an 8 seed, so it wasn't a Q1 win at home. But like, we didn't have enough non-conference action because they didn't know the team was going to be good, so they didn't schedule that well. And like, you beat like an Oregon State team that made the Elite Eight last year and brought back 3 starters, and they won like 4 games all year. And then you beat Northwestern before Boo Buie was a god. So that team just didn't have enough juice, but it went 23-9 in the ACC and came in 5th. Like, had the player of the year, like had 2 NBA. Like, that was a tournament team. That team could have won games in the tournament. So that's what sucks. Apparently, like, they weren't even first 4 out. So who knows if they even would have gone in after Boston College. But my thing the last 2 years has just been like, so the Tyree Appleby year 2 years ago, like, he was amazing. Team just didn't have enough juice, like, straight up. Like, just not enough good players. And a lot of Wake fans, I feel like, struggle with that sometimes. Like, I think that this coaching staff did a great job that year of like getting the most out of that roster. Like, that team just didn't have enough juice. And then this year's team, what was frustrating to me is it showed flashes of having what both those teams had, but like being more complete. Because you're like, okay, we don't have a guy leading the league in points and assists like we did the last 2 years, but like, we have a really good guard who can go get you 100 Salas. And alongside him, you have a Boopie Miller and a Cam Hildreth who can create. But then Hildreth would fall into his ways that really bothered me, of tunnel vision, poor shot selection, out of control play. As hard as he plays and as many great things he does, like, that's hard for me. And then Boopie Miller had some really good moments at the end of the year, but he's still a young guy, who missed a whole last season, like went to Central Michigan, like undersized. Like, there were moments where I'm like, Boopie Miller can really play. Like, he's really good. And then there's others like, he's not a good enough AC. It's like, that was supposed to be DJ Horn. Like, Forbes wanted DJ Horn. And it's like, if you put DJ Horn on that team instead of Boopie Miller, we're like a 7-8 seed, in my opinion. Right. Like, at the end of the day, you're like, I feel like guards, like, a lot of the teams winning have had dominant bigs, and like, having a dominant big is the way to like really be a really good team. But like, guards, like, kind of raise your floor, right? Like, you can only be so bad if you have really good guards. And like, it was just frustrating that it seemed like the problem with last year is we didn't have enough guards. We had one amazing guard and just not enough. This year, it's like, ooh, we've got 3 guards that can really play. And then it's like, the bar just wasn't high enough there. And then Andrew Carr and Efton Reed as tall and mobile, and I don't know if athletics are, I guess, more mobile, switchable, skilled bigs. It's like, this starting 5 should have been good enough, it felt like. And if I had to bring it back down to, and there was no bench either. It just, once again, it's like, do we just have enough players? And I want to give Forbes the benefit of the doubt, because I think he's a good coach of like, okay, you didn't know Jake LaRavia was going to be so good that he ended up going to the league after 1 year. You didn't know Bobby Klintman was going to go to the league after 1 year or go to Australia. Like, those are a key piece that was supposed to be back. But at the end of the day, it's like, in this day, college basketball can't make excuses anymore. Jeff Capel, people were calling for his head. He brings in a bunch of old dudes. They make the tournament. This year, he brings in a couple freshman guards and Ish Leggett, and he still doesn't have much at the big spots, right? He's just got Federico and I call him Homeless Chet, the Diaz-Graham twins.
Yeah.
And he brings in some freshman guards, and Blake Hinson steps up, and they're really good. They should have made the tournament, right? They were a better team than Virginia, everyone knows. So it's like, if Jeff Capel can do that at Pitt, and Forbes, I think you're a better coach. I want you to be a better coach. Like, but like, look what Pitt did. Pitt got to the tournament. They figured it out. They brought in new guys. Blake Hinson didn't run away for the bag. He said, I'm going to be a leader. And it's like Wake's had the chances. But you're going into year 5 and you haven't made the tournament yet. And he brought so much energy to the program. Everyone was so happy there because we weren't bad anymore. And it's like with this coaching staff, we'll never be like a bad basement team, but it's like you got to have the players. Like you got to have the players in these teams. Like I just don't think of course, a shot here, a shot there. Like Wake was just collapsing on the road this year, but like I think it can be explained by like the guard play wasn't good enough. And as good of a player as Hunter Salas is, like he's not here's why I think here's my pitch that he should come back. He's not a lockdown defender. He could be way better at defense with his gifts, I think. And not that he shrunk in moments, but like he wasn't like with Appleby or Londas, we could be like, go do something. You know what I mean? Like having a guard that can just create under any circumstances. Like Boopy and Cam weren't good enough for Hunter to not elevate in the big moments like we needed him to. So That's a long way of saying like, hey, Carr, Reed, like they're good. It just wasn't enough. Like if the ACC like obviously the ACC had some good teams like Clemson, NC State, blah blah. I understand the whole argument. Like Wake was a good team, but it's like you're not special. Like I'm not going to let my bias impact me. It's like look at all the other teams that made the tournament. You know what I'm saying? It's like and I think teams like Seton Hall and St. John's would have beaten us anyway. Like I don't think we were a tournament team. So everyone wants to say, oh, if we didn't blow those road leads, it's like yeah, but we did. And it's because we weren't good enough. It's like straight up.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I mean. What Taylor Swift had the tortured poets department. There's some torture going on in Winston-Salem for those fans. Like I know that it was you, my buddy who I text with pretty daily, and then LD Williams. Actually, LD Williams came onto the program a couple years back, and dude, he is one of the most diehard Wake guys. I probably the most diehard. I mean, he hates Duke. Always got something to say about Carolina, which I respect. Like he is a huge Wake guy, but. Like reading your two Twitter accounts during that pretty much post Duke win I was like, dang, I feel for these guys for sure. Hey, just the last couple things here. I got a bone to pick with you. I'm not saying that this was the biggest kept secret or anything, but I was over here like the Russell Westbrook meme when he's in the corner eating sheepishly. Like, I love Gonzaga next year. And then you went and blew it all up by reminding everyone they got Steel Venters coming back next year. I do love Gonzaga, though. Take me through your thought process there.
Yeah, I mean, what I was so impressed with Mark Few this year is so we're watching Maui, we're watching Gonzaga in early on in the season. Remember, they were it was a semi-home game. I think it was in Seattle, but when they played UConn, they were only 5-point dogs. And I remember I hit UConn big there, and I was like, Gonzaga's good, but like let's calm it down. I remember I tweeted exactly. I view Gonzaga as more of a 4 or 5 seed this year than a 2-3 seed. I tweeted that exactly as I picked UConn. And obviously, UConn ended up being the wagon of wagons, but like you could tell Gonzaga was like Dusty Stromer should not be starting, right? And Dusty Stromer should not be starting. Like as good as Graham Ike is, as good as Nembhard is, as good as Watson is. I also wasn't very big on Nolan Hickman. He's gotten a lot better, I think. But yeah, you're just like, all right, Gonzaga's got some good players, but this is not like the Gonzaga we've seen the last few years. Like that was pretty clear to me at the beginning of the year. So much credit to Mark Few for just getting them to play better and better and better and better. I love the decision to get Ben Gregg in the starting lineup. I think that caused a lot of matchup problems. And, they ran into Purdue, which was just – Purdue just had too much for most teams, right? Like unless Purdue did stupid things, like they were going to beat basically everyone, right? If they didn't shoot themselves in the foot. And it was cool seeing Gonzaga kick Kansas's ass because the way they played offense was like they were picking them apart. Like that's as they've got good players, of course, but like that's all Mark Few. That's them getting better as the year went on. Like the Kentucky game was when they kind of got the noise because it's like how legitimate how much them beating Pepperdine by 40 are we going to really care about? But like seeing how Nembhard evolved and got better and how he worked with Ike and like Ike being like a dominant big, like a level big that can really get you far in the tournament. The Swiss Army knife that Watson is, and Hickman getting better and like becoming a better shooter. Like it was really cool to see how Gonzaga got better. And I felt really stupid taking the points with McNeese in round 1 after falling for the Will Wade hype and the shot.
I was all in on that. But that's part of the fun though, Christian, right? Like it's the March Madness. Yeah. It's Will Wade who's this renegade. Like if you're not going to jump on it at this point where we've all said this ain't the Gonzaga of old, when are you going to jump on it? And of course, Mark Few embarrasses us. It goes to the 9th straight Sweet 16. Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that this is my delayed answer to your question. I watched the tape. I watched the tape. I'm like, all right, you know what? I have no idea how McNeese is going to guard Gonzaga because McNeese wants to turn you over. They want to throw guys at the ball. Like Gonzaga's going to – Mark Few has 4 days of prep to beat a mid-major team. Like Gonzaga's going to win. Like, and I knew that, but I was like, ooh, but what if Shahada Wells goes crazy? Like, what if they do turnovers? You know what I'm saying? And I talked myself into it for vibes. So that is actually my prime example of it because I remember I kept saying him and my buddy Nick and I were texting like we're like McNeese, and then we see the guy Gonzaga. We're like, God damn it. We're like McNeese got screwed, and then we're like, wait, did Gonzaga get screwed?
Yeah,
like, McNeese got screwed.
I mean, college basketball is the one sport you just play so many mind games internally. It's just like, yeah, I saw what they did against Kentucky and Rupp. Yeah, I know they've been to 8 straight Sweet 16s, but how good really is Gonzaga this year? When on one hand, I have this unproven commodity in McNeese State who's played like us, and we're like, that's impressive. Now that is an impressive resume. So you just got to take it for what it's worth there, Christian. Best environment you've been in, and also worst environment. So when I say worst environment, you're just like, this, like, there's zero juice. So give me both ends of the spectrum when you were covering games or just as a fan.
I mean, this year I have an easy answer. This was within 2 weeks. I went to UConn DePaul at Wintrust, where there was 50 people there. And the weekend before I was at Wake Duke in Winston, the first time I had seen that building full, like since I was a 18-year-old boy pulling up, watching us lose to Houston Baptist at home. So like seeing Wake win in front of a packed gym in tie-dye shirts was like an unreal environment. And I mean, poor DePaul. At least they have a functioning coach. I don't think Chris Holtman's going to make them some like legit Big East force, but they won't be the worst team in the league with him. But
that was on Valentine's Day too. UConn DePaul. I remember I was thinking to myself, I might need to protest this game. Like, you cannot have this game on Valentine's Day.
I texted my boy. I was like, "You want to?" My buddy's a UConn fan. I was like, "You want to go to UConn DePaul on Feb 14?" He goes, "Are you asking me to be your Valentine?" I was like,
terrible date.
Historically, the best game I ever went to though has to be I was at the Kemba step back game as a kid.
Wow,
which was just unreal.
Did you know maybe at that moment that was going to be part of like every March Madness clip moving forward?
I mean, it felt magic. Like when they went through. I mean, I was only 11. I didn't really know that much that was going on at the time. But like when I was just expecting them to win every tournament game. And like I went back and like kind of looked at that run a little bit more in depth. Like when they got older, I'm like, it's crazy that they kept winning. And then they did it again with Shabazz. And like I saw Shabazz's team, play that year as well. But UConn just got magic. It's pretty amazing. So it's cool that I'm not like a UConn fan as I was. Like I was a diehard UConn fan like as a kid.
Yeah, I believe it. So I know I keep promising you that I'm going to get you out of here, and this is the second to last thing I'm going to do. All right, a little trivia for you. Remember when I said earlier that this was all just going to come back at the end of the interview? All right, I'm going to put you on the spot here, and I want to do a little transfer trivia. All right, because transfers, it's just wild. It's impossible to keep up with. I saw your retweet where you're just like, wake me up in October when these rosters are set. Because I'm kind of the same way. I'm doing my best to stay on top of it, but like I don't have alerts set up for the Norlanders, the Rothsteins, etc. So but what we're going to do here, Christian, because I know you're a student of the game and I know you're one of the sharpest dudes and a brilliant cat. All right. I want you to tell me the 2 colleges that some of these legendary players have played in, right? So it's
I'm happy you're going with this. I thought you were asking me where guys are, and like I'm not as sharp as I need to be right now.
Not right now. Not right now. Neither am I, dude. And some of these I was just like, oh dang, I didn't know that they transferred. These are players that transferred before transferring is what transferring is today.
Okay.
Hank Gathers. What 2 schools did he play for?
Who?
Hank Gathers.
I don't know who that is. Is that embarrassing?
No, that's all right. USC and Loyola Marymount. Excuse me. All right, I might be dating myself here, right? By the way, I'm 30. I'm about to be 34 in July. But
you look great. I thought you were in 20s. You look great.
I'll take it, man. Thank you. I got to tell my wife that now. John Lucas III. Why don't we start there? Do you know who John Lucas III is?
Do I know who John Lucas III is? What's the second school he played for?
Well, so what school is coming to mind for you?
Michigan State came to mind, but it's like I don't even know if this. I thought of Corey Lucius. That's why Michigan State came.
That's not bad.
I don't know. You're dating me. I'm not this nice with it.
No worries. All right. So John Lucas, I remember when I was 13 years old watching in ESPN Zone. They played Temple, I think. No, St. Joe's. They beat the Jameer Nelson Delonte West team, I think, to get to the Final Four. But he played at Baylor and Oklahoma State. All right. Here's more recently. Davion Mitchell.
Before Auburn?
Correct.
Yes. Okay. That was a tough one because that was tough. I'm proud.
There you go. So this might be our sweet spot here. All right, because I know you know who Davion Mitchell is. Johnny Juzang,
Kentucky,
and
UCLA.
I mean, you got to. Thank you. I'm making you get these. Duncan Robinson,
Williams, Michigan.
Very well done. Brandon Clark. This was a refresher for me.
I know it's a West Coast school. I don't know if it's a WCC school.
I'm happy to give you hints if you need it.
No, Brandon Clark. Before he went to Gonzaga, he was a monster on the glass and maybe blocking shots too. I should know this. This is bad. I don't know this. Where did Brandon Clark go before Gonzaga? Are they in the WCC or are they somewhere else?
You want me to? They're not in the WCC.
Okay.
Happy to give you the conference though.
Okay.
The wheels are turning.
Are they in the Big West?
Nope.
They're a West Coast team though, right?
Yes. Some would say that this conference.
San Jose State?
Yes. I was going to say, some would say this conference really irked the ACC folks. San Jose State.
That's the best. And the wheels are turning. I'm like, it's not coming in my head. And then the logo just pops up.
That's a great pull. All right. So now we're on a bit of a roll here. Wesley Johnson. Remember Wesley Johnson?
Yes. Syracuse and Iowa State. Or Iowa State.
Nope. Iowa State. Remember, with your bets, you got to trust your gut, right? That's what you told me. All right. So you're my professor at this point. I want you to trust your gut. You remember Dan Dickau?
That name definitely sounds familiar.
He's older. He started his career in 97. What I can say is that the two schools he played for are in the same state.
Same state?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Florida?
No. Complete opposite end of the country, actually. Washington and Gonzaga.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I don't know him. Was he on the Adam Morrison team?
Was he before that? He was before that. Okay, Seth Curry.
Liberty. Duke.
Correct. Luke Hancock. Final Four MOP.
George Mason, Louisville.
Well done. Man, I feel like this is a name that just always pops up, but Dedrick Lawson.
Memphis, Kansas.
That's right.
I saw him play American tournament at Memphis.
Oh, you did?
There's unlimited Lawson brothers. There's just another one pops up on Memphis or Oregon every year.
This is a double up, actually. Nigel Williams-Goss.
Washington, right? Gonzaga?
Mm-hmm. That's right. Double up in the sense that Dan Dickau did that. He went the Dan Dickau school of transferring. Remember DeAndre Kane?
Yes. Where did he go before Iowa State, though, is a great question. Why do I feel like that dude was like in the Army and super old? He didn't go to an Army school, right?
No, he didn't. They're not known for hoops. Like I can't remember, maybe like 1 or 2 years in my entire existence of watching hoops have they been relevant.
Yeah.
Might have been these years that DeAndre Kane was on that team, actually.
DeAndre Kane. Can I get a hint? What conference?
I think they're currently in Conference USA. Let me confirm that. No, Sun Belt. My fault.
Little Rock?
Their university name is in a movie title.
That's too wide open.
There's theater in college hoops, man.
I don't. You know what? When you said it, I feel like I clicked on him sometime in the past couple of years and noticed that he transferred. So it did not surprise me at all that he was a transfer to Iowa State, but I can't remember where.
This is tough, man. I'm not going to judge you on this. He went to Marshall to start his career. Yeah. Kyle Wiltshire.
The Sun Belt got better than Conference USA. Also, like that used to be a different thing. Kyle Wiltshire, Kentucky.
Yes, correct. Yes, but to your point, it is crazy, man, how that's happened. TJ McConnell.
He went over for Arizona.
Because I remember I had like just graduated. I remember they were like, "We're getting the small white point guard." I'm like, "Come on, man, can we please be serious?" TJ McConnell's one of my favorite dudes out there.
He said, "You see the clip from the other day of him yelling at I forget who yelled at. He's like, you going under that? Someone under a screen for him said like the elbow, and
he was like, keep going under that shit. I forget who that was, but yeah.
TJ McConnell. Did he sit out a year?
Yes.
Damn.
This team actually won a surprising, I say, they won an NCAA tournament game this year. This program.
All right, that's enough for him. I'm going to get this. I'm going to take my time with this one. I feel like I should know this. I'm going to go in the order of the bracket and make my best guess. Not UConn, not Northwestern.
Correct.
Not San Diego State, not Yale, not Duquesne. No. I'm going to come back to Duquesne.
All right. Duquesne's in your back pocket.
Illinois, Iowa State, Wazoo.
It was not Washington State.
Not Wazoo. It's not Wazoo. People wouldn't transfer in their league back in the good old days.
Now we got Aiden Holloway going to Bama. We got Roddy Gale going to Michigan.
Those are so bad. Those really piss me off. Carolina played.
Who did Carolina play round one? It wasn't that team. I can tell you that. Carolina played Northwestern round two?
No, it was UConn.
Oh, yeah. Carolina did not play this team, though.
Okay.
That
I'm just mad that
McCullough started his career at.
I forgot. I can't. I'm just mad that I forgot who Carolina played in round two. What was that 8-9?
Who did Carolina play? It's I've
Michigan State. It was Michigan State.
Yeah, that's right.
Michigan State beat Mississippi State. Bama played Grand Canyon. Not Grand Canyon.
No. Can I tell for the I don't you let me know. I'm happy to watch you deliberate this, but I can also let you know to expedite it. You've already said it.
So is Duquesne?
It's Duquesne.
Okay.
I didn't know how you wanted to answer that.
How good was he there? Because I was thinking, like, where is he from, by the way?
Pittsburgh.
Okay. I was going to say, I get kind of Indiana type, like Midwest-y.
So
Metro.
There's that Pittsburgh connection with him and Sean Miller, right? Came over and absolute revelation.
Thank you for expediting that.
You're welcome, man. Look, I don't interrupt an artist when they're in their creative process. All right. But I figured I would interject there. And last but not least, Eric Pascal.
Fordham.
That's right.
I had some good ones in there. I didn't start off. I had some good ones in there.
Christian, this has been an absolute blast. I'm going to get you out of here on what I ask every one of our guests. All right. And that's called bring them up on stage. Is there anyone that you've interacted with, that you've spoken with, worked with in the college basketball space, that you think would have fun coming onto this program, and have me reach out to them, bug them, pester them like I did you?
First of all, thank you for all the kind words and for bringing me on today. This has been a ton of fun, and you're doing awesome stuff with this podcast. I had a couple people I was deciding between. And I didn't pick someone yet, so now I have to pick which of those people I'm going to say. I'm going to go with this kid Ryan Cassidy. Is a Big East guy. He I didn't know him until this year. Had a couple games with him, but he is so consistent with content. He's always clipping stuff off. He really knows basketball. He has a podcast, Big East Barroom, mm-hmm. And they've been able to like bring players on, and like him and his brother Tyler do it, and they just kill it. They do great stuff, and I really appreciate their voice. They're great for the Big East. It's funny because the Big East fans and burners are also
they're lunatics.
They have this love-hate family relationship where they go to bat for each other, but they also hate each other. And it's so funny to me, that whole Big East family. And what's cool is he's just kind of like a mediator, someone who lifts up the whole league and is someone that they all follow and respect. And I just think he's done an awesome job, and great basketball mind. He's been someone fun to interact with. I haven't even spoken to him face-to-face, but he's a guy that I would try to hunt down.
Christian Odjakjian, thank you so much for the reference. Ryan Cassidy will reach out to you. It only took me a little over an hour to finally get your last name pronounced correctly. I still don't know if I did it, but we're working. We're always improving. It's the off season, right? Knocked off a bit of rust. Christian, for real though, thank you so much for jumping on. Best of luck moving forward. Where can we consume your work, and what's next?
What's next is a great question. I don't know what the plan is next season. Maybe just try to keep doing the same thing. People have been telling me to put a paywall up behind the picks, and like I probably should, but I'm a little scared that once I do that, I'm not gonna be able to grow as much, or people are gonna hate me when I'm wrong. But now I can be like, it was free, it was your problem. So still figuring out what the next step is, but no, I just want to keep creating content. I've like met a lot of awesome people like you this year, and I made a YouTube, same ad as Twitter, at ODJ Hoops, where I did a lot of live streams and stuff this year. So I'll be grinding come next season. I just got to figure out if I want to do off-season stuff or what the exact plan is next year. But you can Twitter, YouTube, that's where I'm at. And whatever I'm doing next year, I'll be grinding. That's for sure.
Can't wait for it. Christian, thank you so much for jumping on. We will chat soon. We'll be in touch, and we'll catch you next time here on Theater and College Hoops.